Okay, boy. Okay, so now I'm recording. For the benefit of the people who weren't here, I'm going to go back and repeat what I just said. So those of you who are live, I apologize. But because there are so few people online now, I think it's really important that I go back. So let me jump up. I'll go through this really fast. Okay. So I'm not going to talk about the answer. Well, yeah, I will. Let's go through everything. Okay. Right, so this was the answer to the first quiz question. This was the answer to the second one. Here's the answer to the third one. Okay, so now I'm going over the answer to the midterm exam. So this is the problem statement. What I like to do is I like to do a diagram just to help make it very, very clear what's happening. Okay, so these are the numbers that I got when the burglar was not present. And I'm going over this really fast because for the people who were here live, I've already done it once and I don't want to bore them a second time. Those of you that are watching the recorded video, you can always pause the video and look at the numbers. Okay, so this is what I get if the burglar is not present. So my voltage divider gives me an output of 2.95 volts, which when the Arduino does analog read 0, it's going to report that 2.95 as being 604 Arduino units. Okay, when the burglar is present, okay, then the resistance of the photoresistor changes. So now instead of 2.9 volts, it drops all the way to about 0.25 volts, which the Arduino will report as 52 when I do an analog read A0. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to pick my threshold so that it's somewhere in between there. And I like to pick it halfway in between. And the most important thing is because I put the photoresistor where I did, I need to write my Arduino code so that it sets off the buzzer when it sees the voltage drop below. Had I put that photoresistor in the other place, in the lower place instead of the upper place, then I would have had to write my Arduino code so that it sets off the buzzer when it sees the input rise above my threshold. Okay, so here's the Arduino code that I wrote that I think is the simplest code. So I've got my setup where I do the countdown. So I've got a nested for loop where the first time it does 5 flashes and then 4 and then 3 and then 2. Okay, and then the part that sets off the burglar alarm is down here. And you can see that I can do it incredibly simply. All I have to do is just write an if statement that says if analog read A0 reports back any number that's less than 300, I turn on the buzzer. I wait 60 seconds. I've turned off the buzzer, but as I explained to those of you who are on live, and I apologize for repeating it, okay, I turned off the buzzer, but if the burglar is still there, that buzzer is only going to stay off for 1 microsecond, because when the code jumps back up here again and checks analog read A0 again, if it sees that the burglar is still there, it's going to turn that buzzer right back on again. So if the buzzer is only off for 1 microsecond, you won't even hear it be off. You'll hear a continuous buzz for as long as the burglar is there. Okay, all right, so this is what I think is the simplest code, but it's by no means the only way that you could write the code. So this is about the point where we were at when I realized that the recording wasn't on. So I turned on the recording. So this code will accomplish this exact same thing as the code that you just saw, but this code takes advantage of a neat feature of programming called functions. So I've defined this function so that when I call the function, I send it a number, and the number is whatever I happens to be at that particular time. So the first time that I go with the loop here, I is 5. So I'm going to send the number 5 to my flash function, and flash function has the inner for loop there, so it's going to flash 5 times. And then the second time it goes through this loop up here, this time I will be 4. So this time when it calls the flash function, the number it sends it will be 4. So it'll flash 4 times, and then 3 times, and then 2 times, and 1 time, and so on. Okay, so let me throw out the question. Do any of you have any questions or comments about how the midterm worked? So Dan's is saying no. And let's see it from a few of the rest of you. And by the way, Zoe, don't worry about the fact that you came in late. Actually, it was you coming in that prompted me to remember that I had forgot to turn on the recording. So don't worry, Zoe, you can just go back and watch the recording if you have any questions. Let's see a few more of you. I want to hear from the rest of you. Do you understand now how to do the midterm exam? Okay, all right, good. I'm glad to see that. Okay, all right, good. So now, if you got a good score on this test, so now I haven't yet scored the test, but you'll know. I mean, if what you wrote basically matches what I just explained, so you will get a good score on the test. So if that's the case, you don't have any homework tonight. Yay! Let me see some yays. All right, Danny, I see your question, so I'll get to that in just a sec. Let's see some yays. So no homework tonight, but that's provided that you got a good score on the test. Okay. Now, oh, by the way, yes, I'm glad I put this in here. Otherwise, I might have forgotten. You do still have to do the daily quiz. Every time we have a class, we're going to do the daily quiz. But as you saw last time, the daily quiz was incredibly simple. The purpose of the daily quiz is just for me to take roll, basically, ask you a couple of really simple questions. So everybody will have to do the daily quiz. But other than that, you don't have any real homework tonight. But what if you didn't get a good score on this test? Okay. What if you look at what you submitted and you see that you didn't do what you needed to do? So even though I haven't scored the test yet, you know you're not going to get a score on it. What do you do in that case? Well, I'm going to let you retake it. Okay. But the conditions are going to have to be different because obviously I can't let you just copy what I did. So what that means is I'm going to give you a different value for the photoresistor, because remember how I said every photoresistor is a little different? So when the light's on it, they're not all going to have the same voltage when the light's on it or when it's in the dark. So that's going to be different. And also what I'm going to do on the retake is I'm going to make it so instead of putting the photoresistor in place of that upper resistor in our voltage divider, I'm going to make it be in the lowered position. And as I hope you now realize, that changes the way you're going to have to write your Arduino code. Okay. All right. Another important thing that you need to realize is that if you didn't get a good score on this test, and I'm going to let you retake it, but I can't give you an A on it. If you want to get an A on the test, you needed to do it right the first time. Okay, so the best score that you'll be able to get on the retake would be a B, which you know, not a bad score. I mean, it's not as good as an A, but hey, if you want an A, you got to do it right the first time. Okay, so the retake on the quiz is going to be due at the beginning of our next class. So our class sessions now are every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We're going to just keep that regularly scheduled, and I will be recording it. So if you can't participate at those times, don't worry, you can watch the recording. So the retake, if you choose to retake it, you've got to get it in by the beginning of class next time we meet on Monday. Okay, so now, before I tell you what those new conditions are, let me go back up here because Danny had a question. Okay, so Danny wanted to know why we had the other delay in there. So let me go back up here. Okay, so Danny, I presume you're talking about this delay right here. Is that it? I'm not sure which delay you're talking about. Okay, so let me scroll down here. So if you type something, I can see it. Okay, so the delay that you see up here, that's the delay that happens in between the flashes. So after it flashes 5 times, I needed to wait for a second before it flashes 4 times, because otherwise the 5 flashes and the 4 flashes are going to come together and it's going to look like 9 flashes, right? Oh, so you're talking about the other one. Okay. So I don't know. The only delays that I see are this one, which hopefully you understand. This delay down here, that's the delay. So once I turn on the buzzer, I want the buzzer to buzz for a full 60 seconds. So even if the burglar goes away immediately as soon as the buzzer starts, I still want the buzzer to continue for a whole 60 seconds. So that's what this delay is about. Oh, so you're talking about in the first code. Okay. Again, it's the same thing here. This delay right here is the exact same delay. This is the delay that after it flashes 5 times, I want to wait 1 second before it flashes 4. And then after it flashes 4, I want to wait 1 second before it flashes 3. So that's this one. So I'm thinking, so did that answer your question? Okay, you get it. Okay, good. All right, so let's go down here. It's going through here. Okay, so now, those of you who, let me go back up here. So those of you that got a good score on the quiz, you guys are done. You can leave if you want. Don't forget that you do need to take the daily quiz. Oh, hey, I know what we can do. Before we talk about the new quiz, while you guys are still here, I need some quiz questions. And I want them to be really, really, really simple questions. So how about you guys, can you guys suggest to me some possible quiz questions, something that's incredibly easy, something that's kind of like, okay, that one works. So did I wear the wig? Okay, that would be a good question. Okay, so that's one possible one. What's another possible quiz question? When is the due date for the next test? Who came in late in this? Okay, so who came in late? That one would work, but I don't want to embarrass anybody. When's the due date for the test remakes? Nobody wants to know. Okay, so the beginning of class next time we meet. Okay, I presume that you know the answer to that, so Dan's is asking why. I'm not sure what you mean by that. So as a suggestion, okay, yeah, okay, Aunt Novelli, that's it. Okay, so that's a good question. How about a secret word? How about if I say, what is the secret word for today? Any of you have any good suggestions on what might be a good secret word? Brug? Okay, I like that one. Okay, so brug. Everybody remember brug. Mac and cheese, pan. Okay, Caden votes for brug also. I like brug too. So tell you what, we'll let that be the secret word for the day. So if you haven't watched the video or attended class live, you won't know what the secret word is. But those of you that did attend, you know the secret word is going to be brug. Okay, so that's good enough. I think I can make up a test question with that. Okay, so those of you who got a good score on the test, if you want to cut out now, fine, you won't miss anything. Those of you that think that you didn't get a good score on the test, let's talk about the retake, the makeup test. Let's see what conditions I should give you for that. Okay, so on the test that we took, on the real test here, the photoresistor was in this position right here. So on the retake, I want to swap it. I'm going to put the photoresistor down here instead of up here. So hopefully you realize that means you're going to have to change the way you write the Arduino code. Okay. So in addition to putting the Arduino or putting the photoresistor in a different place, I'm also going to change the values of the photoresistor. Okay. So the new values are what you see right here. Okay. So this new photoresistor not only is in a different place, but also when it sees the light, it's going to give you a different voltage. It's going to have a different resistance. It's going to have 730 ohms of resistance in the light. And if the burglar is there so that it's dark, okay, then it's going to have 31,800 ohms of resistance if it's dark. Okay. And also, while I'm at it, this resistor up here, the one that's not the photoresistor, I'm going to change that value too. Okay, so the value of that other photoresistor or that other resistor now is going to be 9,900. All right. So what you need to do now is you need to write the code so that it works properly for these new conditions. And also, while I'm at it, I want to change that startup sequence. Remember, on the first test that we took, the startup sequence that it went through was to flash 5 times and then 4 times and then 3 and then 2 and then 1. I'm going to change that. So if you're going to take the makeup test, what you need to do is you need to make it so that it flashes the Morse code pattern for SOS. So when you first turn on the burglar alarm, in order for the burglar alarm to let you know that it's working properly, it has to do the SOS pattern. Hopefully you guys realize that the SOS pattern is 3 short flashes, followed by 3 long flashes, followed by 3 more short flashes. So that's what I want you to put in the setup part of your code. That's what the Arduino will do one time and only once when it first powers up. And then as soon as it finishes that, then it starts looking for the burglar. And if it sees the burglar, it sets off the buzzer for 60 seconds. And if it doesn't see the burglar, then it doesn't. Okay. So any other questions from anybody before I turn off the recording and end the class session? I see there's still 11 participants here, so a lot of you say, okay, so Novelli's saying, hold on. Okay, so I'm holding Novelli. Now, so Novelli, if you have a question, you can either type it in, or if you want, you can unmute your microphone. A neat way to unmute the microphone, some of you may or may not know, if you just hold down the space bar and keep holding it, as long as you're holding the space bar down, you will be unmuted. So you can ask your question, and then as soon as you let go of the space bar, it'll mute you back again. So Novelli, you want to either type in your question? Okay, so what's the difference when you use the first thing versus the second? When you say the first thing, do you mean, oops, you mean this one? So on the test that was due today, the photoresistor was up here in this position. And now for the retake quiz, I've swapped positions. So is that what you mean, Novelli? Yeah, okay, good. All right, so the difference is when the photoresistor was up here, when the burglar comes, what happens is the resistance of the photoresistor goes up, and therefore the voltage across it goes up. And then that means that the voltage across the other guy, this is the voltage that we're reading, this voltage goes down. Okay, so if the photoresistor is up here, we need to write our code so that the burglar alarm sets, so that the Arduino sets off the buzzer when it sees the voltage go down. But in today's quiz, the makeup quiz, I've swapped positions down. So now the photoresistor is down here. So now it's going to behave differently. What's going to happen now is that when the burglar comes, the voltage is not going to go down this time. The voltage is going to go up this time. Okay, that's what I meant. And so Danny, yeah, you are correct in what you said there, Danny. All right, Novelli, does that answer your question? Good, okay. Anybody else have any questions? Yes, Brug is the secret word. So, so remember, even if you got a good score on the quiz, you still need to take today's, I said their test. The test isn't the word that I wanted to use. Let me change that to quiz. Okay. Okay, so everybody has to take today's quiz. And one of the quiz questions is going to be, what is the secret word for today? And the answer to that question is going to be Brug. Okay, well, so you'll just give us the score we get from the test. Okay, so Novelli, so the answer to your question is, so if you got a good score on today's test, the one that was due a few minutes ago, then that will be your score. If you got a bad score on today's quiz or today's test, then whatever score you get on the retake that you turn in on Monday, okay, I will score that, but the best you can possibly hope for is a B. So you'd have to get it perfect in order to get a B. Yeah, okay. All right, so any last questions? Going once, going twice, sold. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording and then I'll stop the class. So here